All right. Howdy, folks. We are live. Welcome to Black Swan Revelations. You're probably wondering where Bob is right now. Bob Barber was going to come on my channel, and we have a last-minute cancellation. Last minute. He's got some renovations going on, and it's actually becoming quite funny when you think about it, because I think this is the third time now that I was supposed to have Bob on my show, and then for whatever reason, something comes up right at the last minute, and he is not able to make it on this show. So he actually just messaged me just a little while ago. So I just giggled when I saw it, because I'm like, oh, wow. I just created a thumbnail and announced it. I waited as long as I could, and then so we'll just have to run with what we have. And this is funny because this reminds me of, I'm just going to show you a little video clip. So I don't know how else to explain it, but if you watch this is a video clip with Jimmy Kimmel, and you could pretend that I'm like Jimmy Kimmel, because whenever Matt Damon was about to go on the show, Jimmy Kimmel would run out of time for Matt Damon. So I'm just going to show this clip, and then we're going to go into something that I think will be neat. So let's just jump into this here. Look at this. This is an old episode of Jimmy Kimmel.
I can't tell you how excited I am to bring out our final guest of the evening. Over the years, we've had a lot of big stars on the show, but there's one guest we just never seem to have time for. Apologies to Matt Damon, we ran out of time. Matt Damon, apologies, we ran out of time. Matt Damon, apologies, we ran out of time. Apologies to Matt Damon, we ran out of time. Apologies to Matt Damon, we ran out of time. Matt Damon, I'm sorry we ran out of time. We'll try to work in later in the week. Apologies to Matt Damon, ran out of time. Apologies to Matt Damon. He had a baby today, so it really was the wrong thing to do to bump him, but we had to. It's been a long time coming, but the wait is over. Ladies and gentlemen, you know him from his Oscar-nominated performance in Good Will Hunting, for which he also won the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay. You know him as the star of such films as The Talented Mr. Ripley, Ocean's 11, Ocean's 12, Saving Private Ryan, Dogma, All the Pretty Horses, The Bourne Identity, The Bourne Supremacy, The Bourne Ultimatum, which was due out in 2007. He's the co-creator of Project Greenlight. He'll be seen on October 6th in the Martin Scorsese police thriller The Departed, and in Robert De Niro's The Good Shepherd, playing a career officer in the CIA. He recently celebrated the birth of his first child with his Argentine-born beautiful wife, Luciana, who he met in Miami while filming the 2003 movie Stuck on You. Ladies and gentlemen, a man who needs no introduction, the one, the only, the magnificent Matt Damon. Matt Damon, everybody. There you go. Well, they love you, and it's so good to have you here. Unfortunately, we are totally out of time. I hope you had a good time tonight. I want to thank Ben Stiller. I want to thank all the celebrities who made tonight's Salute to Me possible. Again, my apologies, Matt. Can you come back tomorrow night? Yourself. Good night, everyone. Thanks for watching. I knew you were going to do it. Oh, big funny, big laugh. Just tell me when I can get up and walk up. Go.
All right. We're back. So that's basically, whenever I watch an episode of Jimmy Kimmel and Matt gets invited on, I know what's going to happen. Matt is going to get bumped. And this is what you guys are going to begin to think. You're going to be like, Shane ran out of time for Bob Barber. And it's actually, maybe that's what this is, just the thing. This is the thing that we do, where I'll talk about something in Bible, and then I'm about to invite Bob on, and I'm like, sorry, folks, I ran out of time. I was going to have Bob Barber on here, but we ran out of time. Sorry about that. So if you're here expecting to have Bob Barber on, we just ran out of time for him. So next time we'll have him on the show. So it's interesting, right? It's kind of funny. All right, so I wanted to dive into Joseph this morning. And what's interesting is I believe I'm going to be hosting again, I believe anyway, on Uptime Community Church. And I believe Bob is going to be on there as well. So believe me, I'm going to bring it up in some way with regards to this, because I think this is funny. I don't know. I think it's hilarious. Anyways, let's just move right along. All right. So Genesis 42, let's dive into something interesting and do a little bit of a deep dive here. Let's go into Genesis 42. My goal is to hopefully by the end of this video that you get something out of this anyway. Let's see. Let's just jump into Genesis 42. Feel free to leave your comments and all that good stuff as well. So, okay. Now, when Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, let me just make sure you can see this. Yep. Jacob said unto his sons, Why do ye look upon one another? And he said, Behold, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt. Get ye down thither, and buy for us from thence, that we may live and not die. So this is Jacob. So remember, in another video, I talked about that Jacob is actually a supplanter. Some people say he's a deceiver, he's a liar, all this kind of stuff, but actually his name means supplanter. It just means he always thinks of a better way, a more efficient way of doing something. So in this case, Jacob is the one that brings this up to his sons. Like, why are you guys looking at each other? Why are you staring at each other? Go down to Egypt and bring us food. Interesting, right? And Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy corn in Egypt. But Benjamin, Joseph's brother, sent not with his brethren, for he said, Lest peradventure mischief befall him. And we're going to come back to Benjamin. And the sons of Israel came to buy corn among those that came, for the famine was in Canaan, which is interesting, right? Very interesting what's going on here. So let me just make this, yeah, I think that's good. Joseph's 10 brother went down to Egypt. Okay, but Benjamin stayed behind. The sons of Israel came to buy corn among those that came, for the famine was great in the land of Canaan. And Joseph was the governor over the land, and it was that sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brethren came and bowed themselves before him with their faces to the earth. So it's interesting here because Joseph had a dream that his brothers would bow before him. And this is a partial fulfillment, if you will, of that dream. Hopefully you could see this all right on the screen. So we'll just continue on. So they bowed themselves with their faces to the earth. And you got to understand that they are coming into foreign territory and they have to pay homage by bowing down. And they don't really get a chance to get a good look at Joseph. They don't really get it because you can't stare at someone as powerful as this guy or a leader or a king. Otherwise, there is a chance that you can get killed for staring at a leader. So it's just something to keep in mind in the background. And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them. So Joseph knew his brethren, but made himself strange unto them, and spake roughly unto them. And he said unto them, Whence come ye? And they said, From the land of Canaan, to buy food. So this is interesting that Israel comes to Joseph in Egypt, in a foreign land. They don't know him. They don't know Joseph, but Joseph knows Israel, knows his brothers. Joseph knew his brethren, but they did not know him. And Joseph remembered the dreams which he dreamed of them, and said unto them, Ye are spies. To see the nakedness of thy land are ye come. This is interesting because this shows up again and again. So we'll hang on to this. Ye are spies. This was the thing to do. Spies would come into people's land, see how vulnerable they are. That's what nakedness is, and in order to find out their weakness. Now, remember, this happened, or this will happen, when Moses sends out 12 spies into Canaan to spy out the land to see where they're weak so that they can defeat them. So in some ways, this is kind of prophetic. Remember 10 spies. I just caught this myself. But 10 spies, 12 spies went into Canaan, 2 spies came back with a good report and 10 did not. So in this case, Joseph is accusing his brethren, 10 spies, that you are spying out this land, you are up to no good. So Joseph is accusing his brethren of being spies, and there's 10 of them because Benjamin is at home and Joseph's in Egypt. It's interesting, right? To spy means the same. It's possible. Yeah, it's possible because, again, later Joshua uses 2 spies only. He doesn't use 12. He uses 2 to go check out Jericho. And this is where they run into Rahab and all this stuff. But it's interesting that we have kind of a reversal thing going on where Joseph is actually making himself strange to Israel. And later, and we'll talk about this, there's so many layers to this. Like it's just amazing how many layers. Right now, I have so many ideas and stories coming to my head from the Bible about Joseph not knowing who he is. And in this case, the brothers don't know who Joseph is. And you can kind of compare that to today's Israel. They really don't know who they are. They think they do. They're in the land. They're in the promised land of Israel today, but they're depending on their weapons and stuff. And I think part of that is because they don't know who God the Father is. They don't know that. Because if they know God the Father, they're going to know Jesus Christ. If they know Jesus Christ, they're going to know the Father. But they don't know the Father right now. And they're in Israel. I'm talking about the Israelis right now. They don't know Jehovah God, because if they did, they would know his son. So we're going to try and go a little bit deep this morning. All right, so it's interesting that they're before Joseph. So let's just keep going here. And they said unto him, can you guys read this all right? Let me just make sure. So maybe I'll make it full screen for a bit. I'll make it full screen so you can read this. They said unto him, nay, my lord, but to buy food are thy servants come. We are all one man's sons. We are true men. Thy servants are no spies. And he said unto them, nay, but to see the nakedness of the land ye are come. And they said, thy servants are 12 brethren, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is not, meaning Joseph is not. But there is one. You got to catch this here. I catch this. How can I explain this here? So there's lots going on here. Lots going on. How can I unpack this? How can I unpack this? Lord, help me. Give me wisdom here. You have 10 from the tribe, from the nation of Israel. They're not a nation yet, but from the family of Israel in Egypt. Joseph is a stranger to them, and he's making himself strange, probably done up in makeup and all kinds of stuff. Looks like an Egyptian. Remember, they haven't seen him since he was 17. So 10 are representative of Israel coming to Joseph. One is left behind in Canaan, which later becomes Israel. Because remember, Israel takes over that land. So you have one tribe left from Rachel. One son left from Rachel. You have one in Egypt, which is Joseph. You have one in future Israel, which is Benjamin. Hold that thought. Park that thought for a second. Joseph is out of Canaan. He was kicked out, if you will. How? Well, he was sold to the Ishmaelites, who are also relatives in some way to Jacob, because remember, the Ishmaelites are descendants of Ishmael, because we have Isaac, we have Abraham, Isaac, and Ishmael was born 14 years before Isaac and cast out. And then Isaac had twins, Jacob and Esau, and the promise went to Jacob. So again, Benjamin, for his own protection, stays behind in Canaan because Jacob didn't want to send him with his brethren because he didn't want him to be killed, because that would be the last of his favorite wife, which was Rachel. So they're here, and Joseph recognizes them, but they don't recognize Joseph. So let's go back. One is not. Joseph said unto them, that is that I spake unto you, saying, ye are spies. Hereby ye shall be proved. Hereby ye shall be proved by the life of Pharaoh, ye shall not go henceforth, except your youngest brother come hither. Send one of you, and let him fetch your brother, and ye shall be kept in prison, that your words may be proved whether there be any truth in you, or else by the life of Pharaoh, surely ye are spies. So Joseph swore on behalf of Pharaoh, and he put them all into ward 3 days. So it's interesting that Joseph put these guys into a ward. The first time that we start, this is basically the first time we hear the word ward. But the next time we hear the word ward, W-A-R-D, is in the wilderness when there is a child, probably 19 years old, under 20, that was walking through the camp of Israel, blaspheming the name of God, and I believe his father was an Egyptian, which is interesting, and the woman, I believe, was an Israelite. And they were not sure what to do with this guy. So they put him in a ward until they can figure out what to do with him. And then Moses went before the ark, almost like a radio in some ways. Kind of interesting when you think about this, because God said that he was going to speak to Moses over the ark. It's almost like he's adjusting the frequency and God speaking to him right there. I never really paid attention to this. I just thought God was always speaking to Moses wherever he was, but it was almost like the focal point was the tabernacle, and more specifically, the Ark of the Covenant. And that's where God said that he would speak to Moses. So Moses would go into the tabernacle and ask God, what do we do with this guy? And God said that you are to stone him because he's blaspheming my name. And this is going to be an example for others. So that's kind of the first real time that we mention that we know what a ward is. Joseph puts them in a ward here, so we get a hint of it. But then later in the wilderness, when they fled from Egypt, we see them put him into a ward until they could figure out how to punish him. It's almost like jail. Kind of interesting, right? All right, let's go back. Let's go back. So they put him in a ward 3 days, and Joseph said unto them the third day. It's interesting, 3 days, and the third day, this do and live, for I fear God. So after 3 days, guaranteed the 10 brothers were talking to each other in there, looking at each other in the face, going, why are we here? Why are we here? It's most likely because of what we did to our brother Joseph. We sold him. Now we're getting punished. Guaranteed they're yelling at each other. Guaranteed for 3 days. If ye be true men, let one of your brethren be bound in the house of your prison. Go ye, carry corn for the famine of your houses. So if you let one brother be bound in jail, then you guys can go free. But bring your youngest brother also unto me, and so shall your words be verified, and ye shall not die. And they did so. And they said to one another, we are verily guilty concerning our brother. in that we saw the anguish of his soul when he besought us, and we would not hear. Therefore is this distress upon us. And then Reuben answered them, saying, Spake I not unto you, this is the firstborn, do not sin against the child, and ye would not hear. Therefore, behold, also his blood is required, because to them Joseph is dead. They knew not that Joseph understood them, for he spake unto them by an interpreter. Man, there's so much going on here. So now you get Joseph listening in onto the conversation. They don't know he understands Hebrew. They don't know that. They just think this guy's an Egyptian. So they're yelling at each other in Hebrew saying, didn't I tell you not to sin against this child? This is Reuben sticking up for Joseph. Why? Because Reuben was descended from, basically he was Leah's son. So it's interesting that Leah's sons are sticking up for Joseph, right? That's something to think about. So when Joseph was looking for his brothers, I believe those were the sons of Zippah and Bilhah, which are basically, there's 4 sons. They're the ones that really, really hated Joseph. How do we know this? Well, we know that Reuben tried to save Joseph by talking his brothers into putting him into a pit so that later he could rescue Joseph. We know that. And then also Simeon gets put in a ward until they bring back Benjamin. And then we also know that Judah also puts his life on the line for Joseph and for Benjamin. Interesting, right? These are the sons of Leah putting their neck on the line for Joseph and for Benjamin, who are the sons of Rachel, which are Jacob's favorite, both Joseph and Benjamin. So it's interesting to have the brothers stick up for Joseph and Benjamin. So park that on the file. All right. So let's go back. For he spake unto them by an interpreter. And he turned himself from them and wept, and returned to them again and communed with them, and took from them Simeon. So Simeon was put in jail and bound him before their eyes. Then Joseph commanded to fill their sacks with corn and restore every man's money into a sack, and to give them provision for the way. Thus he did unto them. And they laded their asses with corn and departed thence. As one of them opened his sack to give his ass provender in the inn. So they basically were on their way home. They stopped to feed their donkeys. And he noticed that the money was in his sack. So it's interesting, right? So it was kind of a surprise to everyone, because chances are they're going to be killed for robbing from Pharaoh or robbing from Joseph. And he said, who was this again? Let me see. Turned himself, wept. Then Joseph commanded every man they laded, and one of them, so it doesn't say who, just says one of them opened his sack. And he said unto his brethren, my money is restored, and lo, it is even in my sack. And their heart failed them, and they were afraid, saying one to another, what is this that God hath done to us? Because they're feeling guilt right now. So then they carry on. They came unto Jacob their father unto the land, and told him all that befell them. So right now they didn't know that all the money was returned. They just thought it was just one brother. The man who is the Lord of the land spake roughly to us, and took us for spies of the country. And we said unto him, we are true men. We are honest men. We are no spies. We be 12 brethren, sons of our father. One is not, and the youngest is this day with our father in the land of Canaan. Interesting. One is not. What's interesting is Joshua is from the tribe of Ephraim. And what is his name? He is Joshua, the son of Nun. And here we have one is not. Almost like none. Interesting, right? Verse 33, and the man, the Lord of the country, said unto us, hereby shall I know that ye are true men. Leave one of your brethren here with me, and take for the food the famine of your households, and be gone. And bring your youngest brother unto me. Then shall I know that ye are no spies, but ye are true men. So will I deliver you to your brother, and ye shall traffic in the land. Meaning you can come and go as you please. You're welcome. And it came to pass, as they emptied their sacks, that behold, every man's bundle of money was in his sack. And when both they and their father saw the bundles of money, they were afraid. Yep, now the whole family has actually robbed Egypt. Interesting, right? Spoiled Egypt in some ways. Future. Because we know that during the Exodus, when Moses was gathering Joseph's bones and brought Joseph out of Egypt, that the Israelites spoiled Egypt. And this is almost like foreshadowing of something going on, because all the brothers had their money back. And they were thinking that they robbed Egypt. And they're terrified, rightly so. They could soon be executed, all of them, for stealing against one of Pharaoh's top dogs. Interesting, right? All right, let's continue on here. Let's continue on. And Jacob their father said unto them, me have ye bereaved of my children. Joseph is not. Remember, Joshua, the son of Nun. Joseph is not, and Simeon is not. So now he believes Simeon will never come back to them, and ye will take Benjamin away. All these things are against me. And remember, Simeon, this is kind of interesting right here. In the land, if you turn to the back of your Bible, you'll see in the land of Judea, Simeon is right in the middle of Judea and mixed in with Benjamin. Interesting, right? And so this story here is about Joseph. Obviously, Simeon's been captured, and Jacob is worried about it. Israel's worried about Simeon, and he's worried that Benjamin's going to be taken away as well. All these things are against me. And Reuben spake unto his father, saying, slay my two sons. If I bring him not to thee, deliver him into my hand, and I will bring him again to thee. So sticking up for his sons, he's saying basically slay my sons. This is not saying that he's a horrible father. This is just an extreme case of saying, look, this is how serious this matter is. And people say dumb things. They do, under duress. Reuben is under duress. Why? Their whole family is about to be extinct. So they're not speaking with wisdom. Can we give Reuben a bit of a break? Because, wow, that seems weird that Reuben would say, slay my two sons. So if you took this quite literally, you would be thinking, okay, Reuben is telling his dad Jacob to kill Reuben's sons. Can we just kind of get over a little bit of the religiosity and understand that Reuben is under duress and he says something silly, as in, this is so important to me because I love my sons, but I love your son more right now. I'm going to bring Benjamin back. because I know you love Benjamin, and I know you don't have Joseph, and I know what that means to you. It's almost like Benjamin is worth 2 sons. So that's all that Reuben is saying here before we get offended at him. And he said, my son shall not go down with you. This is Jacob speaking. For his brother is dead. You got to understand, from Jacob's perspective, Joseph's gone. He's out of the picture. Gone. Israel. I don't know if you guys are getting what I'm throwing down here. Israel thinks Joseph is gone. Dispersed. What do we have today in Israel? Most people would say that the 10 tribes are gone forever. They're done. They lost their inheritance. They lost their promise. They're gone. Joseph is the firstborn of Israel. How do we know this? Because Reuben slept with Jacob's concubine, thus demoting Reuben from firstborn status. Now Joseph is considered the firstborn. And later, Joseph's 2 sons, Manasseh, the oldest, Ephraim, the youngest, gets adopted by Jacob, meaning equal status with the 10 tribes of Israel. Remember, Levi, the tribe of Levi, doesn't get an inheritance. God is their inheritance. Instead, they get cities of refuge, 3 on that side of the Jordan, 3 on this side of the Jordan, plus 48 cities, and they're free to buy and sell land whenever they want. They just don't get to inherit land as part of their territory. So according to Israel, Joseph doesn't exist anymore. And this is what's happening today. Most people would say Joseph doesn't exist anymore. The 10 tribes don't exist anymore. But one thing to remember is God always knows who his people are. And this is also prophesied in Ezekiel, I want to say 37-38, where God says, basically paraphrasing, that my branch will be their shepherd, meaning Jesus Christ. He will be their shepherd. They will know him. They will hear his voice. He will be their king. So we can't forget about that. It's interesting, right? Where is Bob? That's a good question. We ran out of time for Bob. So we ran out of time. So we'll have to have Bob on another time. There's just not enough time to bring Bob in onto this channel at this point. So we'll reschedule. We'll put Bob on again. But right now, there's not enough time for Bob. Not enough time for him right now during this teaching. So we bumped him to another time. We bumped him. He'll be back. I'm sure. I promise he'll be back. All right, let's continue on. Let's jump on. Let us continue on. So he said, my son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is left alone. If mischief befall him by the way in the which we go, then shall ye bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to the grave. Interesting, right? Gray hairs. Bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to the grave. Hang on to that. Famine was sore in the land, and it came to pass when they had eaten up the corn. My dog is barking for some reason. Hang on one second. I pause for station identification. Let me see what's going on with my dog. He's barking for some reason. Give me 1 second. I will be back. 1 second. I feel like Shimonian. I don't know if you guys know who that is. He's always got his cats in his video and all kinds of stuff and yelling at people at the phone. Don't you know that I'm doing a live stream? Kind of like me right now. And I think Bob will be on my show tonight. That's actually funny. I can't come on the show tonight, Rick, because I think I've told you probably for the past month that I always have a Bible study on Monday nights. So, Rick, if you could write that down on your calendar on the fridge, just say Shane is always unavailable on Monday nights. Any other time, I'm there, but not Monday nights. Monday nights, we have men's ministry, basically a Bible study and ping pong and all kinds of stuff going on. All right. Where were we? Okay, we're talking about Joseph. Let's go back to Joseph. Famine was sore, and it came to pass when they had eaten up the corn which they had brought. Out of Egypt, their father said unto them, Go again, buy us a little food. And Judah spake again unto him, saying, The man did solemnly protest unto us, saying, Ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. If thou wilt send our brother with us, we will go down and buy thee food. But if thou wilt not send him, we will not go down. For the man said unto us, Ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. Israel said, Wherefore dealt ye so ill with me? Like, why are you guys doing this to me? You're killing me. That's where the saying came from, most likely. You know the saying, they missed the boat? It probably came from the flood. Looks like they missed the boat. And then here, wherefore dealt ye so ill with me? This is probably where the saying, you're killing me, came from. As to tell the man whether ye had a brother. Why did you tell him you had a brother? They said, the man asked us straightly of our state. Ooh, that's interesting. Our state. Crazy, right? And of our kindred, saying, Is your father yet alive? Have ye another brother? Have ye another brother? What an interesting thing to say. And we told him according to the tenor of these words. Could we certainly know that he would say, Bring your brother down? And Judah said unto Israel, his father, Send the lad with me. It's kind of like an affectionate way of saying, Look, send him with me. Send the lad with me, and I will make sure and take care of him. So send the lad with me, and we will rise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and thou, and also our little ones. We don't want to starve. I will be surety for him. This is one of our first cases of a redeemer. Put that on the shelf for a little bit. Of my hand shalt thou require him. If I bring him not unto thee and set him before thee, then let me bear the blame forever. Interesting, right? Interesting that the tribe of Judah, that Judah himself, before their tribe, says, I will be surety for him. Let me take his place, basically. Let me be security for him. Of my hand shalt thou require him, if I bring him not unto thee. If I don't bring Benjamin back, let me bear the shame forever. Now he goes on to say, look, we could have been there and back already. We're arguing about this stuff. Verse 10, For except we had lingered, surely now we had returned the second time. And their father Israel said unto them, If it must be so now, do this. So remember the supplanter, he's figuring this out. He's like, okay, what can I do? Okay, Take of the best fruits in the land in your vessels, and carry down the man a present, a little balm, a little honey, spices and myrrh, nuts and almonds, and take double money in your hand, the money that was brought again in the mouth of your sacks. Carry it again into your hand, peradventure was an oversight. So perhaps this is a mistake. So double money, what does this mean? This means the money that you were going to give to Pharaoh, take that back, plus the money for coming back a second time, so that there's no offense, that nobody accuses you of stealing. So this will make it look like you're not only bringing your money back, but you're actually overcompensating because this is your second time back. And he's hoping that peradventure this was an oversight. Take also your brother and arise and go again unto the man. And God Almighty give you mercy before the man, that he may send away your older brother, which is Simeon, and Benjamin. If I be bereaved of my children, I am bereaved. And the man took the present, and they took double the money in their hand. And Benjamin rose up and went down to Egypt and stood before Joseph. And when Joseph saw Benjamin with him, he said to the ruler of his house, bring these men home, slay and make ready, for these men shall dine with me at noon. And the men did as Joseph bade. And the man brought the men into Joseph's house, and the men were afraid because they were brought into Joseph's house. And they said, because of the money that was returned in our sacks at the first time are we brought in, that he may seek occasion against us and fall upon us, and take us for bondmen, for slaves, and our asses. They came near to the steward, which is interesting, right? They're going to make a deal. The brothers came near to the steward of Joseph's house, and they communed with him at the door of the house, and said, notice that the steward was at the door of the house, and said, oh, sir, we came indeed down at the first time to buy food. And it came to pass, when we came to the inn, that he opened our sacks, and behold, every man's money was in the mouth of his sack, and our money was in full weight, and we have brought it again into our hand. And other money have we brought down into our hands to buy food. We could not tell who put our money in our sacks. And he said, this is a steward, peace be unto you. Peace be to you. Fear not, your God and the God of your father hath given you treasure in your sacks. I had your money. It was me. And he brought Simeon unto them. And the man brought the men into Joseph's house and gave them water, and they washed their feet. And he gave their asses provender. And they made ready the present against Joseph, and came at noon, for they heard that they should eat there. So Joseph was working, and he was coming to have lunch at noon. And when Joseph came home, they brought him the present which was in their hand into the house, and bowed themselves to him to the earth. And he asked them of their welfare, and said, is your father well? The old man of whom you spake, is he yet alive? So now Joseph wanted to know if his father was alive. And they answered, the servant our father is in good health, he is yet alive. They bowed down their heads and made obeisance. And he lifted up his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, Rachel's son, Benjamin. Remember, Joseph is Rachel's son. Is this your younger brother of whom you spake unto me? And he said, God be gracious unto thee, my son. Cool, right? And Joseph made haste, for his bowels did yearn upon his brother, and he sought where to weep. So he was looking for a place that he could weep, and he entered into his chamber and wept there. Interesting, right? Joseph was looking for a place to weep and went into a chamber and wept there. And he washed his face and went out and refrained himself and said, set on bread. And they set on for him by himself. So Joseph sat by himself, and for them by themselves, and for the Egyptians which did eat with him by themselves. So Joseph sat by himself. His 11 brothers sat by themselves, and then the Egyptians ate by themselves, because the Egyptians might not eat bread with the Hebrews, for that is an abomination unto the Egyptians. What's interesting is in Galatians, let me just finish this thought here. And they sat before him, the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men marveled at one another. So the firstborn according to his birthright, which is Reuben, and the youngest according to his youth, which is Benjamin, and the men marveled. They're like wondering about the seating order. And he took and sent messes unto them from before him, but Benjamin's mess was 5 times as much as any of theirs, and they drank and were merry with him. So it's interesting that they sat down, they had food with Joseph, but they weren't with Joseph. So again, you have the 11 brothers in order. So what do we got here? We got Reuben, basically the head of Israel at this time. Then you have Simeon, then you have Levi, then you have Judah, then you have Dan, and then you have Naphtali, then you have Gad, and then you have Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin. Well, Joseph is by himself. Then you have Benjamin last, and he has 5 times the mess, meaning 5 times as much. And it's interesting that in Leviticus, it's interesting, a lot of these laws get moved over into Leviticus, and it seems like they stem from Egypt. The stoning, we see this with Moses telling Pharaoh, hey, unless you let my people go, we got to go sacrifice to our God. And Moses is like, no, you can't go too far. Just go in Goshen, sacrifice your animals there. And Moses said, these are detestable to the Egyptians, like what we're doing. We're shepherds, all this kind of stuff. We're detestable with our sacrifices. And won't they stone us? So that stoning got transitioned over into all the laws and commandments, if you will. And then here we see Benjamin gets 5 times a mess, food, at his, can you imagine a heaping 5 dishes, if you will, 5 plates just stacked high, and little Benjamin's got to eat? Imagine what his brothers are thinking. So in Leviticus, if you stole something, the thief had to restore 5 times. So if you stole a bowl, you got to give 5 bowls to restore. Interesting, right? So a lot of stuff gets transitioned over. It just kind of gets carried over, which is kind of interesting. Interesting, right? This episode is the best of Bob Barber on these podcasts. I don't think I've ever heard, I don't think I've heard him use profanity either on these podcasts. Good observation. All right. So let's see here. So we now have the meeting. Joseph's by himself. His brothers are by himself. The Egyptians are by themselves. Oh, I was going to mention in Galatians, Paul, who's also from the tribe of Benjamin, a descendant, basically one of the great grandsons, if you will, of Rachel. That's Paul, the apostle. Rachel was his great grandmother. It's kind of interesting when you think about that for a little bit. Give your head a little bit of a spin. So Paul confronts the Pharisees, who are his buddies. They come in with James and they sit down to eat. Peter notices this and leaves from sitting with the sinners, the Gentiles, and sits across the hall and sits down with the Pharisees. And Paul takes notice of this and then walks right up to Peter and says, what are you doing? Like, this is not right. You don't live like the Jews anymore. And yet you are sitting with these people and you're looking down on these people, these sinners, and yet you're basically being a hypocrite right now. And he called him on it. So it's interesting that we see this with Joseph separating himself, and you see the Egyptians here who are offended at the Israelites because they're shepherds. That's why they had to eat separately. So there's interesting parallelisms going on here. Crazy, right? So the reason why I bring this up, and we're going to continue on here because it's very important to know what's going on here with Joseph. I just find it interesting that his brothers, everyone thought he was dead, including his brothers. So let's just go to 44. Let's go to 44 real quick here. And he commanded the steward of his house, saying, fill the men's sacks with food as much as they can carry, and put every man's money in his sack's mouth, and put my cup, the silver cup, my cup of divination, in the sack's mouth of the youngest, which is Benjamin, and his corn money. And he did according to the word that Joseph had spoken. So he told his steward, again, trickery times 2. As soon as the morning was light, the men went straight away, they and their asses. And when they are gone out of the city, and not yet far off, Joseph said unto his steward, up, follow after the men, and when thou dost overtake them, say unto them, wherefore have ye rewarded evil for good? So he's sending his steward out to get them. Is not this it in which my Lord drinketh? Whereby indeed he divineth, yet have ye done evil in so doing. And he overtook them, and he spake unto them the same words. And they said unto him, wherefore saith my Lord these words? Why are you accusing us? God forbid that thy servants should do according to this thing. Behold, the money which we found in our sacks' mouths we brought again unto thee out of the land of Canaan. How then should we steal out of thy Lord's house silver or gold? So if we're giving you your money back, why would we steal silver or gold out of your Lord's house? Why would we do that? This doesn't make sense. With whomsoever of thy servants be found, both let him die. So if you find this silver cup in any of our sacks, let him die, and then we will be slaves. Isn't that interesting? And he said this, now also let it be according to your words. So this is the steward saying, okay, if you make a vow, keep it. He with whom it is found shall be my servant, and ye shall be blameless. You can go. Another instance of a redeemer. So whoever's sack this is found, that the silver cup is found in, that person will be held accountable, but you guys can go free. That person will be my slave. So then they speedily took down every man his sack to the ground, and opened every man his sack. And he searched and began at the eldest. So the steward was going around, starting with Reuben, then Simeon, then Judah, then Levi, going all the way down, and left at the youngest, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. Can you imagine? Then they rent their clothes. It was like death. And laid it every man his ass, and returned to the city. And Judah and his brethren came to Joseph's house, for he was yet there. So Joseph, which is interesting, he never left the house to go back to work. He stayed. For he was yet there, and they fell before him on the ground. And Joseph said unto them, what deed is this that ye have done? Wot ye not that such a man as I can certainly divine? Can't you tell that I know the future? Interesting, right? And Judah spoke up and said, what shall we say unto my Lord? We're guilty. Look at this. We are guilty. because we have the cup. What shall we speak, or how shall we clear ourselves? God hath found out the iniquity of thy servants. He is singing like a canary. Behold, we are my Lord's servants, both we and also with whom this cup is found. So all of us, we're going to be your slaves, all of us. And he said, God forbid that I should do so, but the man in whose hand the cup is found, he shall be my servant. So Benjamin's going to be my servant. You guys go, get out of here, beat it. And as for you, get you up in peace unto your father. Go. Then Judah came near unto him, saying, O my Lord. It's probably where that saying came from. O my Lord. Let thy servants, I pray thee, speak a word in my Lord's ear. So he brought Joseph aside. Interesting, right? Bold. Could have lost his life over this one. Let not thine anger burn against thy servant, for thou art even as Pharaoh. Don't be angry at me. My Lord asked his servants, saying, Have ye a father or brother? And we said unto my Lord, We have a father, an old man, and a child of his age, a little one. And his brother is dead, and he alone is left of his mother, and his father loved him. And thou saidst unto thy servants, Bring him down unto me, that I may set mine eyes upon him. And we said unto my Lord, The lad cannot leave his father, for if he should leave his father would die. And thou saidst unto thy servants, Except your youngest brother come not with you, ye shall see my face no more. Something that echoes later with Pharaoh to Moses. And it came to pass, when we came up to thy servant, my father, we told him the words of my Lord. And our father said, Go again and buy us a little food. And we said, We cannot go if our youngest brother be with us. Then we will go down. So we cannot go down. If our youngest brother be with us, then we can go down. For we may not see the man's face, except our youngest brother be with us. And thy servant, my father, said unto us, Ye know that my wife bare me 2 sons, and one went out from me. And I said, Surely he is torn in pieces. Interesting that the kingdom got torn into 2 pieces. 10 tribes in the northern part, and 2 in the southern. And I saw him not since. And if ye take this also from me, and mischief befall him, ye shall bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to the grave. So sad. Now therefore, when I come to thy servant, my father, and the lad be not with us, seeing that his life is bound up in the lad's life, it shall come to pass when he see that the lad is not with us, that he will die. Our father's going to die. Everything that he is, everything that he has is tied into Benjamin. You will basically be responsible for killing him because he's going to die. If we come back home without Benjamin, he's going to have a heart attack right there. And thy servants shall bring down the gray hairs of thy servant, our father, with sorrow to the grave. For thy servant became surety for the lad unto my father, saying, If I bring him not unto thee, then I shall bear the blame of my father forever. Now therefore, I pray, let thy servant abide instead of the lad a bondman to my Lord. Let me be a slave, and let him go. Let the lad go up with his brethren. Let everyone else go. This is Judah saying this. Let everyone else go. Let me be the bondman. This is a redeemer. This is a redeeming action. Let me swap out for Benjamin. Let Benjamin be swapped out for me. For how shall I go up to my father, and the lad be not with me, lest peradventure I see that the evil that shall come on my father. It's like, I'm not letting him go. Sorry. Then Joseph could not refrain himself before all them that stood by him, and he cried, Cause every man to go out from me. And there stood no man with him, while Joseph made himself known unto his brothers. So secretly, this is a secret right here. Secret. No one knew what was going on. So they left. All the Egyptians left. And he revealed himself to his brethren. And he wept out loud, and the Egyptians in the houses of Pharaoh heard, most likely outside. And Joseph said unto his brethren, I am Joseph. Doth my father yet live? And his brethren could not answer him. They were shocked, for they were troubled at his presence. This is a whole new game now. We're in trouble, and now suddenly this is Joseph. Oh my goodness. Joseph said unto his brethren, Come near to me, I pray you. And they came near. And he said, I am Joseph, your brother, whom ye sold into Egypt. Now therefore be not grieved nor angry with yourselves. Don't be upset at yourselves. Don't beat yourselves up that ye sold me hither. For God did send me before you to preserve life. Remember what he overheard? They were upset, turning on each other. For these 2 years hath the famine been in the land, and there are 5 years left, in which there shall be neither earing nor harvest. And God sent me before you to preserve you a posterity in the earth, and to save your lives by great deliverance. So now it was not you that sent me hither, but God, and he hath made me a father to Pharaoh, the Lord of all his house. So this is father. Interesting, right? Some people get mad at Paul the apostle saying, I'm a father to you. Because Jesus said, don't have any man call you father and all this stuff. But this is a different word. This is basically, look, Pharaoh, God has made me a father to Pharaoh. Basically, Pharaoh looks to me for wisdom into saving all these people. Same thing. That's how Paul was presenting himself to the church. He's a father to Timothy. Follow after Paul. And the Lord of all his house, and the ruler throughout all the land of Egypt. Haste ye, and go up to my father, and say unto him, Thus saith thy son Joseph, God has made me Lord of all Egypt. Lord of all Egypt. Come down unto me, tarry not. Don't tarry. Thou shalt dwell in the land of Goshen, and thou shalt be near unto me, thou and thy children, and thy children's children, and thy flocks, and thy herds, and all that thou hast. And there I will nourish thee, for yet there are 5 years of famine. So this is where we get the 7 years from. And thy household and all that thou hast come to poverty. And behold, your eyes see in the eyes of my brethren, Benjamin, that it is my mouth that speaketh unto you. And ye shall tell my father of all my glory in Egypt, and of all that ye have seen, and ye shall haste and bring down my father hither. And he fell upon his brother Benjamin's neck and wept, and Benjamin wept upon his neck. So nice. Moreover, he kissed all his brethren and wept upon them, and after that his brethren talked to them. They are reunited, all the brethren. So awesome. And the fame thereof was heard in Pharaoh's house, saying, Joseph's brethren are come, and it pleased Pharaoh well. Imagine Pharaoh getting news. If he thought Joseph was great, imagine Joseph has 11 other brothers. Can you say jackpot? Pharaoh said unto Joseph, Say unto the brethren, do this, slay your beasts, and go get you unto the land of Canaan. Take your father, your households, and come unto me, and I will give you the good of the land of Egypt, and ye shall eat of the fat of the land. All right. So, and this is where Joseph gave them wagons to go get Israel. And we see these wagons come up later because 6 wagons were donated to the Israelites that were responsible, mainly from the tribe of Levi, to handle the tabernacle. So this is the first time we see wagons being mentioned. Anyways, okay, enough of that. Interesting though, right? Like every time I read the story of Joseph, it is more amazing every time. Israel thought his son was dead. Judah stuck up for Benjamin, even though it wasn't from his mother, from Rachel. And he said, let me be a slave. And it's interesting that some Jews today are like, we don't understand how that redeeming, we don't understand how one man can save everyone. Well, if you read in the Old Testament, you guys have a whole book called Saviors, basically the book of Saviors. It's another way to look at it. That's the book of Judges. Judge is another way to say Savior. Savior is another way to say judge. Joseph saved Israel in this case. Lots of stuff going on. And I can only imagine, like, I get teary-eyed when I think about all the emotions. Joseph couldn't contain it anymore. Couldn't contain it. And then once they realized that this was Joseph, it's almost like the veil got pulled out from under them, and they're like, whoa, this is too much for us. Too much. And now all of Israel was saved. Interesting, right? Lots of stuff going on here. So I'll make a video. I'll continue on with this, but that's it for now. Like, we didn't even get into later verses talking about basically, it's interesting that some of the, I think they were Pharisees, were looking at Jesus and going, is this not the son of Joseph and Mary? And aren't his brothers with us and all this kind of stuff? There's some little parallelisms going on in the Gospels, and we'll talk about this a little bit later in another video. Just interesting stuff. And then when you think about Rachel dying, basically in Bethlehem, Rachel died crying out basically because she was having birth pains, like birth troubles. And as soon as Benjamin was born, Rachel died shortly thereafter. She was never buried in Abraham's tomb, which is kind of interesting. Leah was. Interesting, right? Lots of stuff going on. Anyways, hope you got something out of this. Yeah, tomorrow night we'll be on Uptime Community Church, and Bob will be on there as well. I think Bob's going on to Rick's channel tonight, Prophecy Mondays. So go check that out. And I hope you guys got something out of this today. I know it's a little bit of a deep dive into the story of Joseph. But again, if you look at it today, Israel doesn't know who they are today. They don't. If you just look at them, they're like, they're not aware of which tribe they come from. They don't know who they are. They don't know who their God is. They don't know Jesus Christ. And that's because there's a veil over them right now. And one day that veil is going to be removed, and they will know who Jesus is. They will know him as their Messiah, as their Savior. Interesting, right? All right. Very interesting. I know I say that a lot. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in another video. Ta-ta for now. See ya.